I should like, on behalf of Her Majesty the Queen and of the entire British people, to express our thanks, admiration, affection, and good wishes. We shall not forget you, and we shall watch with the closest interest as you embark on this new era of your remarkable history.
Welcome everyone, my name is Whiff, and I am super glad to be able to finally, after all of this time, release episode 1, or in this moment now to be recording the voiceover for episode 1. This is something that's been a long time coming for me, and if you know me, you know this is something that I've been working on, been working towards for a while. This is an idea that I've had for several years, and I've tried to do it before, and it didn't really work out. It didn't look good. The product wasn't there. It wasn't good. But this, I'm 7 or 8 episodes deep into the footage. It's looking amazing, and I'm so happy to finally be recording this, to finally be able to put this idea out on YouTube for everybody in the Cities Skylines community. So you're probably wondering about that intro. It's pretty odd, maybe pretty jarring even for a Cities Skylines series, but it's all about the backstory. And this is obviously a fictional universe, not a fictional universe, well, it is a fictional universe obviously, but this is a fictional city, fictional region, fictional whatever. But the backstory is this. It was a British colony somewhere in East Asia up until about the late 70s when it finally gained independence. However, just after it gained independence, 6, 12, 18 months later, there was a civil war between a nationalist faction and a communist faction. And it was stoked further by different racial tensions, different economic drivers, and all these other things that coalesced into a violent conflict. It lasted a few years, and it ended. The northern area ended up splitting off as a communist People's Republic, and the south maintained some sort of a British Commonwealth-style quote-unquote democracy. And the war ended in more or less a stalemate, and an armistice was signed. And then the northern areas later just united with China and was given special economic and autonomous status, similar to places like Shenzhen, other special economic zones. In this fictionalized universe, it was actually a dream of Mao Zedong's to bring this region back into the fold of China, hence why he was shown in the intro. The northern part of the region was, at the time, was far more rural, decentralized, but the south was more urban and dominated by the city. However, after the war, both sides, they pretty quickly recovered. The South is because they were very free market oriented, and they just became another one of the Asian tiger economies. And you know the Asian tiger economies, they're South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. It grew crazy fast like those economies did after World War II or after their independence, depending on which country you're talking about. The North, it recovered because of its special economic status, and obviously it was super close to the southern city, so that helped. And the northern areas, you know, it was a collection of villages and farmlands, but over the last 40 years, it grew into a pretty dense urban area itself. And Neither of these two places have names yet. If you have ideas for the names, shoot them to me in the comments. Maybe I'll use it, but I'm not good with naming Asian places. The war was about 40 or so years ago at this point, and there was fairly tense relations between the two sides until the 1990s. But since then, there's been a pretty stable peace. There's a lot of trade that goes back and forth. The border is very porous. There's a lot of activity along the border economically. But both sides still maintain a military presence, especially for the South, for obvious reasons. So with the intro to this series, you might think that this series is heavily based on Hong Kong, which there's going to be some elements of Hong Kong, yes, but it's not. It's definitely more of Singapore and Shenzhen. These are two cities that I have a weird obsession with. They're my top two places I want to visit that I've never been. And beyond that, I've also noticed, other than $2.20 Sichuan province and other Japanese-styled series, there aren't really any series based on an East Asian style or an Asian tiger style. So in this series, you'll see, the Chinese style, you'll see the Singapore style, but you'll also see a little bit of inspiration from other countries like the Philippines, Malaysia, Taiwan, maybe even Japan. But I'm trying to stay away from Japan because that's sort of everybody, it's been done before. Another part of this that I struggled with was actually naming the series. I thought of a bunch of different stuff, and none of it seemed to fit, but I like the idea of Dragon's Gate. It sounds cool, but also it tells the story of what it is. This region is a trade gateway to not only China, but it's also a gateway to other parts of Asia. Here in episode 1, I build the southern side of the primary border crossing between the two countries. I intend this to be the primary way of getting into the southern city from the edge of the map, so it'll be quite busy once it's functional. It'll be a while before it's functional because it's not going to be, there's nothing going to be going through it for a while because we're going to start on the Chinese side of the border and doing that side. But it will connect to the northern side via highway and via train, bus service and taxi service and those kinds of things. And the southern residents will get there mostly via train and highway. I might include a metro service and maybe even a light rail service, tram service later on. I don't know yet. But I didn't include a metro this time because I'm using the Ultra Hub asset and it's kind of glitchy and I wasn't comfortable with doing the metro. And this build is actually something I struggled with as well. This is the third or fourth time I've tried recording it, and I had to rebuild it because the previous versions, I didn't really like them. They didn't really look good. Here, I'll put some screenshots of them on the screen. The first two, they didn't look half bad, except for it's always on the northern part they got sketchy. And also the problem with them was the highway connections were not very realistic at all. Like, there wasn't the big area to pull off and do custom stuff, and it wouldn't have been realistic with the amount of traffic I expect to be going through there. But on the northern side, it was always a problem with, the first one was the train station. It didn't look that great. And then the second one, it looked okay, but it just wasn't what I was looking for. And so I opted to go for this, and after you see the second episode here in a week, you'll probably agree with me that it looks way better. Or you may disagree, just let me know in the comments. But it's way too late now, can't really do much about it. I've already done way too much building around the northern side that it really can't be changed at this point. Unless I just completely, radically redo the whole thing, and that would be way too much work and would set me back on so much time that it's just not worth it. So the next thing I want to talk about is the video format. So what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to try to experiment with different video formats a bit before I settle on one. I'm trying to hit my own style because normal time-lapse plus cinematic videos are very baseline, very basic as far as this community. There's nothing wrong with them, but I want to be more innovative and have better than average content. In the words of my high school marching band director, I want to entertain the popcorn eaters. So my target video times are about 15 to 30 minutes. Some may be longer in the beginning due to the nature of how they were shot, especially episode 2 and episode 4 maybe. But generally speaking, I want to have mid-length videos. However, obviously these projects create a ton of footage, like gigabytes upon gigabytes upon gigabytes, tens and tens of hours. So let me know in the comments if you would rather see more the build process or just the cool parts, or maybe I could have more videos that are shorter but get less progress or get less done each episode. But I don't know, I don't really want to do that because making cinematics of the same build in multiple episodes could be bland or boring. So I don't know, just let me know in the comments what you think about all that. Now we'll talk about the actual build that you're seeing on the screen. The highways that go across the border are split into 4 sections. The north and southbound lanes for trucks and buses, there's 4 lanes in each direction, and there are the 4 interior lanes, the 4 lanes in the inside of the highway lanes, I guess. I don't really know how to describe it. And then north and southbound lanes for the smaller vehicles like cars, taxis, and all that stuff there's 6 lanes in each direction, and they're on the outside lanes. In the center is the train station. It has 2 platforms, I believe, has a bus hub and a customs area for those modes of transportation. And the idea for that is you'll go there, you'll go through customs, you can get dropped off by bus or you can arrive by train. Then you'll go through customs, and then you'll either get back on a bus or you'll get on a different train. Then you'll cross the border, that'll drop you off at the customs station across the border. And then from there you can take whatever other mode of transportation you need to wherever you're going. On either side of the highway are customs areas for highway traffic, including holding areas, there's maintenance areas, employee parking, and everything that you would need to have a major customs and border checkpoint. The train connections to cross the border and return are all underground, but they quickly resurface on either side of the border, and the grade isn't that steep because it's a train, so it remains grade separated for quite a while on either side, which helps with, going through the city or dealing with the highways that are adjacent and all of those kinds of things. Something else you'd probably notice is there's going to be a lot of use of decorative trees. Looking around on Google Earth, many cities in South China and Southeast Asia as a whole use a lot of tree cover inside the actual city, which isn't something that's very common in the United States. I mean, we have trees here, like in the cities, but not to that extent. Where I am in the summer, it can get to, 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 37-ish Celsius. And in the cities, it's just incredibly uninviting to walk anywhere. You gotta have that car air conditioner to do anything. Whereas in these other places where it's constantly hot and humid, you can walk around there because there is more shade, among other things, and they have actual sidewalks, unlike large portions of the city where I live. But yeah, trees will be very common, especially since I'm not aiming for super detail. If I did super detail all the time, this project would last forever, my computer couldn't handle it, and I couldn't handle it. But it's mostly a time saver rather than my computer being unable to handle it because Trees uses the hardware as much as props do. That being said, there will be a few projects with high amounts of detail, but other places such as random residential complex number 643 that I build, it won't have that much detail, but it'll have trees nearby. You may not see that particular build anyways, because building residential areas, as everybody knows, it can be really repetitive. But at the same time, that's still a long way off. This is only episode number 1, and we don't even hit the unpause button for the first few episodes, because that's how long it takes me to get around to building the first residential block in the first place. We start off this series with quite a few large projects, partly for logistical purposes, but mostly because I was extremely inspired to build these other things. Like I said at the beginning, I am super happy with where this project is going, and I really just can't wait to release every single new episode. So far, every episode has been challenging in a good way. I think the footage that will become episode number 3 was probably the most chill project so far, but everything else has just been really challenging, but also super fun. And I'm not going to spoil anything, except obviously episode 2 will be the northern area of the border crossing, but I think that's kind of obvious. Another question I expect to get is this: will I be using the CSUR mod? The answer is yes, but I likely won't be using it super extensively throughout the entire project. It's just incredibly tedious and time consuming that it's almost not worth it. But definitely I will be using it on the Chinese and northern side of the border because it fits that theme perfectly. And I'll likely change it up on the southern side, partly to differentiate it, but partly because it's frankly annoying to use sometimes. It's an amazing mod though. Obviously, a super incredible amount of work was put into it, and I would be an idiot not to use it in this project specifically. I say that as I'm not even using it anywhere in the border crossing episodes. But yeah, I'll use it, but don't expect crazy widespread use of it for highways and interchanges. The next thing I'd like to discuss is the map theme, actually. Naturally, this is a tropical environment because of what it's based off of: Shenzhen, Singapore, places in that series of latitudes. But funnily enough, I believe I'm using a temperate map theme. I'm using a Stray Cats Territory Homecoming theme, SCT Homecoming, in this episode. And later on, I use different theme mixer elements, but I do mostly end up using SCT Homecoming by Rafa and $2.20's Springwood theme, and then I use the sand from Punk 7's Bermuda theme, and it really goes well together, but even that is still subject to change because it's close, but it's not exactly what I want, especially since I've changed up the LUT and the ultimate eye candy settings since then. By the way, the LUT I'm using is actually, I don't know what it is in this episode, but I end up using Relight 2 Natural. It looks really good. It's very, natural, because that's what it is in the name. But it looks really good. Don't remember, I think Ronix created it. I don't remember. But they did a great job, whoever they were. And then my ultimate eye candy settings, they stay default for the first few episodes as well. But once I get to the episodes where I decide on the actual finalized versions, I'll show the relight settings, and I'll show ultimate eye candy and theme mixer settings and all of that stuff. And you can recreate the look if you're so inclined. The last couple things I want to mention are the mod and asset collection. I've put the link in the description, but it's pretty hefty. You'll need plenty of RAM. It's because it's a lot of mods, it's a lot of assets, just like most of these other series. I might create a light version, but it's too early to know what exactly I would put in it, what I would exclude, and all of that. But right now, I'm actually not trying to add too much more to the collection anyways. If anything, I'm trying to downsize it right now. But there are some projects I know of in the future that I will have to go out and find more assets and such. And if you have any ideas for builds or mod or asset suggestions, leave them in the comments. But like I said, I am at this moment trying to downsize. Speaking of suggestions and getting help, if anybody's good at making logos or graphic design or whatever, I could really use the help with that because I'm really bad at it. Then again, I'm also pretty bad at doing commentary, but that's neither here nor there. I'm pretty bad at graphic design. I could use the help with, branding for not only my channel, but like for specifically this series. I could also use a flag for the southern region. The northern region already has a flag. It's the Chinese flag, obviously. But I have some ideas for the flag for the south. I want it to have like a blue background with maybe a white rose and a series of stars, 5 to 7, I don't know. But again, I'm really bad with that sort of thing, so hit me up on Discord if you want to help out with that. I'm on the Cities Skylines Creators Discord. I'm on a couple of other community Discords as well. Finally, I'll be setting up a Patreon and a Discord server in the intermediate term here in the next week or two. It's not a big deal right now because I don't really have an audience and I don't really have my own community yet. But I do want to have a community and I want to be a part of the larger Cities Skylines community in general. So be on the lookout for those things over the next few weeks. But for now, I'll just go ahead and end my commentary here and let the time-lapse finish out. I know I didn't spend too much time talking about the actual what I'm doing in-game, and I'll probably change that up in episode 2. But for now, I just want to thank you. I'm super grateful you're here, still listening to me ramble on here 20 however minutes I am into this. I'm really happy with how things are shaping up over the first few episodes, and I really hope everybody else will enjoy it as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.